I love how this video is about self-deprecation, and I'm trying so hard not to be self-deprecating right now, but I'm like... Hello and welcome back to another video. Today is Thursday, March 1st, and today I'm going to be talking about self-deprecation and trying to connect it to social anxiety disorder because I think there is a relevant connection. And I do want to do a video on anxiety because it's been too long and I miss talking about it. Quick announcement before we actually get into it though. I did start my theme on Instagram that I've been debating over starting for a good 3 months. So if you want to check it out, that would be cool. I have explained that all on my first post that I will probably circle or show you in the image that I may place in here at some point. I was instead going to do a video on how I managed to make friends having social anxiety because I have roughly 3 close good friends and I never thought that would even be possible, but I figured that I wanted to put a little bit more work into it and try to figure out some more actual reasonings behind how that happened. I basically want to make it in a way that people with social anxiety will be able to relate to and understand and hopefully adapt into their lives. And this is a series that I am starting for social anxiety or trying to for particular skills or things to say or not to say or to do or not to do or whatever I feel like is relevant to social anxiety and trying to overcome it. Say someone says something bad about themselves or embarrassing or complains or is negative. For example, they slipped and fell on the street and 10 people saw it and pointed and laughed at them or something. Maybe it's because of extreme self-consciousness, you're just so aware of yourself and your presence that it just makes sense to say something self-deprecating in return because they're self-deprecating so you feel like you can too because it's natural for you. Or your nervousness and anxiety in general just makes it easier to be more negative and be ugh, I don't feel good about myself and I feel like that's the only thing I can express, which also has to do with low self-esteem and not feeling like you're good enough. So what I would tend to say back if someone told me that, I'd be like, I fall down the hill every day. Well, I mean, that is true. There's a big hill where I have to get from my school to the buses, get on the buses, and it's really rough, so I just explain it in detail and basically pity myself because oh my god, use this walking stick and everyone just must hate to watch me go down the hill, which is I think is true. But anyway, it might just be also because I'm trying to relate, yes, I totally feel you. I'm embarrassed by myself as well. Or honestly, I think a lot of the times I do it through positivity. I genuinely want other people to feel good about themselves, so my main motive or my main instinct is to be oh, don't even worry about yourself. You are fine. I am the one that's messed up. Don't even look at me. You're cool, you're great. Which is again because of the self-esteem thing, because I like them more than I like me, which isn't always true, but when you're anxious, sometimes that's how you can come off. I feel like I'm emphasizing a lot of things like this, and it's not really making any sense because I don't really have a point yet. I'm really trying. I know what I want to say, but I can't really say it. I don't know. The reality of it, though, is that it's actually super counterproductive to how I feel is helping them because it puts more blame on yourself, which is the last thing you need when you're already socially anxious and don't have enough confidence or self-esteem. You just put so much emphasis on the things that you do bad that your brain kind of starts to believe you even more so than it already has, and it just kind of continues the cycle of self-deprecation. Whether or not you think it's making the other person feel good, which it's not, but we'll get to that in a minute, it's also just hurting yourself a lot more than is necessary. Or maybe you're just doing it for dramatic effect, you are heavily emphasizing something that you might not currently feel is too relevant. It might not be true for everyone, but I know that I tend to make it more dramatic than it actually is because, like I said, I wanted them to feel good for them, bad for me. You're kind of lying, and it really seems like you are looking for attention and praise and relying on them to lift you up, which puts the bad attention back on you. It's not good attention, even if you are lifting each other up. It ends up seeming inconsiderate, you don't care about their feelings, their feelings aren't valid and only yours are because yours are worse or more important. which basically just makes them feel bad about themselves because they think it's kind of like the mental illness not sick enough thing. Like, they don't feel like they're up to par with you, which is like a really unhealthy way of talking about anything or feeling about anything, which obviously leads to worse mental problems or like I said, like self-blame and like just negative outlooks on things. So it does turn into like an actual competition, and then you just start like talking about worse things because they then sometimes, if they're in a similar situation or feeling where they don't have like much self-confidence either, then they might respond with something like worse than what you said. So then it just turns out into like a literal competition. Plus, relying on people to lift you up or give you attention, positive attention, compliments, whatever, even if it's not your intention, it's still a dangerous thing to do because it ends up hurting your self-esteem because you can't, or it's like learned helplessness, like you learn not to create your own happiness in a way, and it just kind of comes through other people, which isn't good because it can also then reflect on judgment and how other people see you, which is a thing that people with social anxiety often are worried the most about. Essentially, it proves you're trying way too hard. And believe it or not, you actually can try too hard. And with social anxiety, you don't want to come off like you're socially anxious, because as a socially anxious person, I'm sure you know that it just makes it awkward, and then a comfortable relationship can't exist in that place. I do want to make a video eventually both on attention and trying too hard, because those are things that I've been very confused about in my past. Most importantly, and the most problematic thing about this self-deprecation competition is that it makes them uncomfortable. I always try really hard not to make other people uncomfortable. That's the last thing I want in order to have friends and acquaintances and, you know, seem like an approachable person to talk to. For all the reasons I listed, they become uncomfortable and kind of shy away and feel like they can't really talk about things that are bothering them as much because you won't listen. So instead, some things that I'm gonna try to attempt and I think might actually help. Encourage self-positivity so it reflects from yourself to other people. So when you say, yeah, I like what I'm doing and I like what you're doing, then it's a win-win situation for everybody and no one has to feel bad about anything. You need to, however, be honest about how you feel without being cruel to yourself. So if you do honestly think that what you're doing isn't great or what they're doing is much better than you, then there are ways to express that. But if you think about it, like, what would you say to them if they thought like it was the other way around, like if they thought yours was better than theirs, which they probably do because most people feel that way about themselves. If it's like the vice versa kind of thing, then really you're both probably amazing. Honestly, I'm just like thinking about art as I'm doing this, or as I'm talking about this, so I don't know if it makes sense in like a large contextual situation or like falling down a hill, but you know, you're probably like pretty equal is what I'm trying to say. So don't refrain from complimenting people. Compliments are good, you just don't have to put the bad emphasis on yourself to make them really good. Like, that doesn't make them any better. Just empathize. You can relate the situation, but in a healthy manner. Maybe by, like, complaining as a collective, which some would argue isn't healthy because it's not positive, but it's like venting, it's getting it off your chest. But you are doing it together as friends would do in some sort of healthier, conversational, easygoing manner. And I think it can open up the conversation into areas that you might not expect, into like new areas where you both share experiences. So for example, if you're talking about like the frustrations of watercolor, then you can both tell equal stories, and then you bond over something that you dislike and can kind of laugh about it together, instead of like what I explained about just making it worse and more uncomfortable. Anyways, thank you for watching. Bye!